Well, hello friends, and welcome to WSIB Truth Matters with Joe Machado, where I separate the truth from bullshit, facts from fiction in plain English. Today I'm going to talk about an issue that comes up frequently and that applies to pretty much every injured worker after January 1st, 1990. And that's the subject of a non-economic loss award. What it means, how do they arrive at that calculation, the amount that you receive, or some of you don't, and how to increase your chances of getting a higher NEL award. All right, friends, so without any undue delays, let's get at it. All right, my friends. So anyway, I hope you're enjoying this beautiful summer and the nice weather we've been having. I know I have. I've been out on the golf course a few times, one of my passions. Barbecue, grilling, and, visiting with friends and that kind of stuff. So I hope that you're enjoying your summer as well as I am. So today, it's a brief one. I'm going to talk a little bit about non-economic loss. And how you can increase your chances of getting a higher reward. None of this really happens by chance. And certainly when you review as many files as I have over the years, and you get to see the disparity between one rating and a different rating by different NEL clinical specialists for conditions that are almost identical, the same, you kind of scratch your head and it's like, what the fuck? Come on, right? For example, I came across one recently. This guy's got a pretty significant left shoulder impairment, right? So I'm going through the file. I get to the NEL section and they gave him a 1% award. 1%. And I'm going, really? Like, what idiot took the time to review this, assuming that it was actually reviewed? And where they pick a particular section of whatever report to come out with a 1% rating, right? It's just asinine. But if you don't question these things, and if you don't know how to question these things, and how to posture your arguments to not only scrutinize the decision that was previously made, but also identify where there were flaws in that decision, and then demonstrate where, if the medical evidence had been taken into consideration, a higher award would have been warranted. Sounds like a mouthful. It could be complicated for someone who's not used to dealing with this all the time. So there's only two ways to get a higher non-economic loss award. Okay, one of them is you appeal the quantum of the award, so the percentage. So let's say you went for an assessment, or now they just do a paper review. These the clinical specialists, they do that review and they say, okay, we're going to give you 5%, right? So you can appeal that 5%. That's the quantum, appealing the quantum of the award. You have 6 months to appeal that decision. If you don't appeal that decision within 6 months, then you lose your right to appeal, although there is a way to get around that, and it's not effective for all cases, so certain circumstances have to apply. But generally, you have to appeal it within 6 months. The other way of getting a higher non-economic loss award is by requesting a redetermination of the initial assessment. So the NEL clinical specialist does a review of the medical and does a calculation, and she says, okay, or he says, we're giving you a 5% award. If you don't appeal that within the 6 months, then you can request a redetermination. But a redetermination can only be requested 1 year after the initial NEL award was done. And that redetermination should be done when there's evidence that there has been a deterioration in the condition. In other words, physical findings to demonstrate a deterioration. Those are the two ways to deal with it. You can request a redetermination as often as you want if there's evidence demonstrating that there's been a deterioration of the condition. They can then increase the award based on a deterioration. So let's say, okay, we agreed that there was a 3%, there's a 3% increase because of deterioration of your condition. And so now the 5% previously awarded is now 8%. Well, you can appeal the quantum of the increase at the deterioration. Again, you have 6 months to appeal that redetermination result. What is the best possible way? There are several that we use to succeed in appealing the quantum of your award, so appealing that percentage. Well, some people think that just writing a letter saying, I don't agree with it, I think it should be higher, they think that that's going to yield a higher award. It's not. You're wasting your time. You're pissing into the wind. Don't do that. Don't waste your time. Okay? The way to do that is you get the now clinical specialist report of the assessment. You take that to the doctor and you say, listen, can you please assess my condition today and note the physical findings of my assessment. Compare those physical findings with the assessment of the report I'm providing you, which was done by the WSIB's now clinical specialist. And can you confirm that there's been a deterioration or that the award should have been higher? That the values that were used in terms of range of movement, flexion, extension, all of those things, to see if those values are greater than what were actually noted in that assessment report. And that will increase the chances of getting that higher award. Similarly, if you're requesting a redetermination, then you should also do that. Because at the end of the day, everything that's done in your claim is done based on medical, or it should be, even though the WSIB likes to ignore medical and they want to overrule medical that you provided from your doctors or your specialists or whatever. They like to do that. But at the end of the day, everything's based on medical, all decisions. And if some idiot doesn't see that, then you're at least preparing your record so that if you end up at the tribunal, you're able to identify that you've done all of these things, that you've done your due diligence, that you've made your requests, and the tribunal will consider the medical. I promise you. They're not like the case managers at the WSIB. They're not like that. So make sure that you always submit the medical information to address a non-economic loss issue. Here's another thing that is very helpful that we use because we don't want to waste our time, right? Our fees are based on a contingency fee. You know that. I've talked about that in my videos. And the lawyers and paralegals on our preferred legal provider network, they work on a contingency fee basis as well. So they have a vested interest in succeeding in your case, because if they don't get you an increase, then they've funded the case. They're never going to recover that money or make any money. And that's like pissing into the wind. It's not going to happen. So no one likes to do that. The goal is to always to increase the NAL or to win whatever it is in your case that is being pursued. So it's important to put together solid arguments. So because we've been doing this for well over 30 years, I can tell you, since 1990, the WSIB has made thousands of decisions concerning non-economic loss. And the tribunal, the Workplace Safety and Insurance Appeals Tribunal, has made thousands of decisions overturning or telling the WSIB to revisit their decision with specific instructions as to what to do. So it's done. And so one of the things that we did, and we started gathering this data for years, is creating a database so that when we're dealing with a particular NEL award for whether it be an organic impairment, you broke a leg or you broke an arm or your neck or your limbs, whatever the case is, and you were granted an award, every body part, every type of condition, the WSIB, or the Workplace Safety and Insurance Appeals Tribunal, has dealt with mostly all of them. So whether it be chronic pain disability or psychotraumatic disability, which is rated a little differently than the organic impairment, or hearing loss or occupational diseases, which are also assessed differently. But we've dealt with all of them. So for us, it's simple. We do a scan and we look for decisions that are identical to your situation. We'll say, well, how come this person who had a left torn rotator cuff had so much range of movement, lost so much function, and yada, yada, yada. And these 5 who have essentially the same were given, so they're given 10, and these 5 were given like 2, right? That's a very large disparity, right? So again, it's all based on medical. And so when you're presenting an argument, you want to be able to provide that medical so that it speaks specifically to your individual circumstances, because every case is different. So you want to have that baseline, and then you want to have those decisions, and where there's a consistency in how the tribunal reviews those, and you're a tiny fraction of what it should be, right? Yeah, the WSIB likes to say that, you know what, we're not bound by precedent, yada, 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 yada. They like to do that because we have all of the power in the world, and fuck off. You're stupid. You're an idiot. Doctors are stupid. Everybody's stupid. We do what we want. Well, you know what? Legally, they're not bound by precedent. But when you have the tribunal consistently pushing back on some of these asinine decisions, somebody somewhere up the ladder is going to look, we're going to look silly if we don't pay attention to this, right? So sometimes it's just dealing with a person who has some ability to think and to be rational and to be reasonable. But nothing gets done unless you fight it, okay? That's just the way it works. Excuse me. So that pretty much covers today's discussion. It's a small one, but it deals with a very important factor. And if you're looking to get a higher NEL award, it doesn't matter when you were assessed. If you're looking to have that addressed in some way, then we certainly can help you with that. Or speak to a representative if you have one and have them address it. And if they do some of the things that we do and have the resources that we've accumulated over the years that are basically available at our fingertips, information from the tribunal, then you decide what you want to do. But at the end of the day, if you want a higher award, the status quo doesn't work, you got to act. All right, my friends. So I've got other videos coming up next week. I hope that this one has been helpful. If you're new to the channel and you haven't subscribed, please become a subscriber. It doesn't cost you anything. And hit that notification bell so you're notified every time I come out with a new video. And please share my videos with others, because there's thousands of injured workers throughout this province, just like you, who are getting screwed by this organization. All right? And we want to make sure that we balance the scales, or we tip the scales in your favor. All right, my friends? And continue to enjoy this beautiful summer. And make sure that you have a nice hot or cold beverage, preferably cold beverage. And to my friends at the WSIB, well, you know how I feel about you, right?
We know that connecting with the right lawyer or paralegal to handle your case can be overwhelming. Do they have the expertise to handle your case? Do they have a good track record? Are they affordable? We've got you covered. Legal Pro Connect takes the guesswork out of finding the right legal provider. We've already done the vetting for you and connect you with the right lawyer or paralegal. With the expertise to handle your specific issue and at preferred rates. Get connected today. Visit www.wsibsettlements.com.